Before we start, I gotta say today's video was actually inspired by you guys and the comments that you left on the PSVR2 retrospective that I released a couple days ago. Without your comments and your feedback and you guys starting a conversation down there, this video wouldn't exist. So thank you for that and continue to do that. If you have any thoughts, there's a chance that, we'll go over them here and we'll make them into a further video. So once again, thank you for your support and your interaction with the channel. Without further ado, let's go. You join me at my mess of a desk because I'm not at home anymore. I'm at university, and because I don't have a tripod, you're all going to sit right up there. But that's okay, because even though I'm here, we still have to talk about important things. And one of those important things is about a review I did a couple days ago. Now, this review was on the PSVR2, and as it happens, I have one with me, which is convenient. Well, not convenient, I need it to do my job. But we're going to talk about one of the things that was brought up in that review that a lot of you commented on, and that is first-party AAA games by Sony. This is quite an interesting point that a lot of you brought up in the comments, and it was that while you love the indie games and you've loved the AAA games that we've gotten, where are the rest of them? And there are a couple of sides to this that we could consider, one being worst case, the other being best case, and a little bit in between. Luckily for all you people craving AAA stuff though, we have Resident Evil 4 coming this winter, which is a AAA port, the entire game start to finish, like we had on the PSVR for Resi 7, and like we now have for Resi 8 on the PSVR 2. I'm going to put this down now because it's slightly annoying to hold. So yeah, we have that coming, and that's one to look forward to. But what if you're not a horror fan, and what if you just want AAA games more frequently? Where are we actually headed with that? Well, to answer that question, we have to go back to the very start. We've got to head back to the release window of the PSVR 2 and consider what we got there. In terms of AAA games, we had Horizon Call the Mountain, Gran Turismo 7, and Resident Evil Village. These were three AAA offerings that Sony thought would mull us over until, the rest of it comes this winter. And by the rest of it, I mean Resi 4. That's one way to look at it. And the other way to look at it is that Sony is giving all the commitment that they have at the start. We've got Horizon, we've got Gran Turismo 7, that's going to sell headsets, and we don't need any more. That would be the worst case. What I think is happening is that obviously AAA games take a lot of development time. Call of the Mountain was in development for quite a long time, and if we're going to get releases like that, it's going to take a while between them. And Sony may have front-loaded the launch of PSVR 2 to make it as stacked as possible with AAA releases so that people would buy the headset at launch, and they would ensure those sales. But that leaves us with a bit of a gap, and that has been filled with some great games like Synapse, Switchback now the patch has been given out, No Man's Sky now that it's been patched, The Light Brigade, and many more. And we've got more great games coming, like Stellaris, Phasmophobia, but those aren't AAA, let's be honest. And a lot of you are disappointed that no AAA games have been announced, and I would say, let's wait for the Christmas period, because if we're going to get another showcase at any point, it's probably going to be around then. Spider-Man 2 will have come out by then. Sony will have a fresh slate to go over any releases they want to and go over the new stuff that's coming after they've pushed out this old stuff, like Spider-Man, that's on their current release calendar, and they're really pushing hard with the marketing right now. If give it a couple months and nothing has been announced, maybe then it's time for panic mode, but for now I think we're okay. But I do get the notion that a lot of people aren't exactly the happiest in terms of AAA support. All I would say is give it time. It's only been, 6 or 7 months, and to be honest, we've had such a great lineup of games for the PSVR 2 compared to the PSVR in its first few months, compared to years of support on the PSVR 1, that I think, to be honest, we're doing pretty well. And I think the notion is really that AAA games, they just take time. But I also want to talk about the expectations for the next AAA games if they come. I, for one, very much enjoyed Horizon Call the Mountain, but I know a lot of you guys found it a little underwhelming in its mechanics, and going forward, the public might have a higher standard for immersion compared to a game like Horizon. Maybe people won't settle for that level of interactivity with the world and simple gameplay that kind of keeps you on rails to make you not feel sick or overwhelmed. Personally, I think Gran Turismo 7 is a perfect port of a flat game, and we could get many more of those going forward, flat to VR games. I just went over Subnautica VR yesterday, check out that video in the description, which has a straight flat to VR port by the devs. If we got something like that on PSVR 2, that would be amazing, and we'll maybe mull people over between official PSVR 2 releases. But ultimately, I do want to have a higher level of interactability. Is that a word? I don't think that's a word. Interactivity. That's the one. It's weird having a camera up there. I can just point at it. Anyway, I do want a higher level of interactability. Oh my god, I said it again. Anyway, I do want to have a high level of interactivity with our VR games that are coming out in terms of AAA in the future. I love Horizon Call the Mountain, but give us free combat, give us more movement, give us more options. What about actual games and IPs though? What realistically could we see going forward? Well, one of the main ones I would love is Spider-Man. We've had some Spider-Man VR experiences in the past. They haven't been great, to be honest, but they've given that sensation of swinging, and I think they could absolutely nail that on the PSVR 2. Plus, Spider-Man's a big hitter on PlayStation right now. Of course, we could get more Horizon games because we've already had one of those, and the IP is quite big. PlayStation want to grow it, another VR game could do quite well. Then we'd also want to see games like God of War come over. That would be incredible, either being Kratos or being on the same universe as Kratos and wielding some of those weapons and seeing those locations. That would be amazing. AAA games like F1 would be a no-brainer on PSVR 2. Unfortunately, the devs don't seem to really want to do that, or EA doesn't really seem to want to do that on the PSVR 2. They just want it on PC VR instead. Imagine a game like Ghost of Tsushima as well. I've just been playing Broken Edge. There's another video on the channel, shameless plug, go watch that one. And that combat is incredible, but imagine that in VR, in a Japanese landscape that's photoreal and made by a AAA company and funded by Sony. That would be incredible. But ultimately, my expectations are tempered, and to be honest, I bought this headset fully thinking that we'd just be getting some indie titles after launch and not even a notion of more AAA stuff. I kind of assumed the worst case scenario in terms of support for the PSVR 2 from Sony, so I didn't really expect anything else. So now we've been announced that we're getting Resident Evil 4 this winter in VR. That's an amazing surprise, and we could potentially get more in the future, but to be honest, I think a main stake of owning a headset like this is you should be happy with the indie releases we also get. If you're not, that's completely fine, but you're going to have a much better experience with it if you're content with those, alongside the big AAA stuff. Ultimately, the VR market isn't quite there yet to just support loads of AAA releases that costs a lot of money, and a lot of the stuff we will be getting is indie stuff. But ultimately, it's up to Sony. It's not up to me, it's not up to us. I mean, it's up to our wallets to an extent, but the general public kind of have to get involved and show they're interested in the market for Sony to really bump up those AAA releases. But hopefully we'll get some good stuff in the future. And who knows, if a showcase is announced with some more PSVR 2 games, we could always get God of War VR, Spider-Man VR, Ghost of Tsushima VR, who knows? But I'm willing to bet that there's something cooking up at Sony in terms of a PSVR 2 game or two, and I'm hoping to see it fairly soon, but I'm good with patiently waiting. I'm happy with my headset like a lot of you are, but I do understand if the AAA VR releases haven't really been up to standard with what you're expecting. All I can say in my final words of this video is, we're only 6 or 7 months into the headset's life cycle. That's really not very long, and we've already had so many great games, so hopefully that'll just continue onwards and upwards in the future. Anyway, thank you all for watching and joining me in my setup for the next couple of months. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next video.